Right now, the president is on a victory lap from the Mueller probe, but he still has some legal hurdles ahead.
12 News' Jared Hill joins us live in Washington. And Jared, from the Mueller probe to now cases linked to the president in Manhattan, what are the differences?
Yeah, so Sheldon and Edie, the thing here is that the special counsel was specifically allowed to look into whether or not the Trump campaign conspired with Russia to influence the 2016 election and whether or not President Trump obstructed that investigation. But along the way, Robert Mueller found possible evidence of other possible crimes and shipped those off to other prosecutors.
We're glad it's over. It's 100% the way it should have been.
As the White House continues its victory lap in Mueller's Russia probe, President Trump still has legal hurdles ahead, particularly in the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York.
They are drilling down on that campaign finance conspiracy alleged, and also the finances.
The president's former lawyer, Michael Cohen, is already headed to prison, in part for paying off two women just before the election who claimed affairs with Donald Trump. A campaign finance violation Cohen and prosecutors say was directed by the president.
Everything had to go through Mr. Trump, and it had to be approved by Mr. Trump.
SDNY is also looking at whether the Trump Inaugural Committee accepted illegal donations in exchange for access to the administration. But testifying before Congress in February, Cohen says there could be more.
Yes, and again, those are part of the investigation that's currently being looked at by the Southern District of New York.
With the New York State probes also looking into alleged tax schemes and other financial crimes, former federal prosecutor Gene Rossi says Trump Organization CFO Alan Weisselberg will be key.
He knew where every penny went. He knew where every penny was borrowed from. He handled the books.
So President Trump has dismissed those New York investigations as politically motivated harassment. And the White House is saying that Trump was not involved in the inaugural committee, which actually ended up raising $107 million. Guys, back to you.
All right, Jared, there's been talk about whether or not a sitting president can be indicted for a crime. So what would happen if prosecutors found enough evidence to charge the president?
So, Sheldon, the DOJ actually does have a policy, it's not a law, but a policy, that essentially says that a sitting president would be immune from any prosecution. The thing here, though, is that there is a 5-year deadline to file federal charges. And if President Trump were to win re-election, then that statute of limitations actually would expire, and he potentially would not be able to be charged with those by the time he got out of office. Prosecutors, though, still could decide to seal the indictments and file those once he gets out. But then there's the question about whether or not the judge would allow that, because there is no hard and fast law that would stop them from issuing those indictments. So there are a lot of questions over what would happen if charges actually were to be considered.
All right, Jared Hill reporting from our Washington bureau. Thank you, Jared.